Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Evolving. I'm Corey
Hello.
Castle. This is episode 201. I got Simon and Sam Skyping
Hi.
over an international episode. The first time that I've done two virtual hangs at the same time for an episode of this podcast. So I'm psyched about it, and I hope I appreciate anybody tuning in. I appreciate your time and your effort, and I hope you stay with us. So, so you guys have a podcast over there? I mean, I was trying to read or trying to do some research and check out the podcast, and I couldn't find it on Apple Podcasts.
Well, you see, we're so niche, aren't we, Sam? That it's like you've got to know all the keywords and the sort of like the code in order to be able to get our podcast. Even that one's not very well known, but
I believe we are on Apple somewhere, because I spent some time copying all our episodes over, but it's Acast, and Simon helped me out. Where do we do the live shows? Podbean.
Podbean,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes total sense. I mean,
Very big on Podbean. Yeah.
I get that on top of I have another podcast that I do with my friends about pro wrestling called Wrestle Rock, and we used to use Podbean like back in the day when we first started doing it. But we're on Simplecast now, and my podcast is on Spreaker, is where the host of it is. So we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna talk inside baseball. We're gonna talk about the backstage of podcasting.
Oh, right. We're not going to talk about baseball, are we?
No, I don't know anything about baseball. But that's just
Oh, right.
I think that's just a turn of phrase. I don't know if that's something you guys are familiar with. Inside baseball, it's usually it's just insider terms.
No, I'm not aware of that phrase. Simon might be, because he's actually into baseball.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we have actually done baseball on our podcast before. So we did an episode about sports, didn't we? And I did a guide to baseball, so I explained everything there was to know about baseball. But I made most of it up, you see, because that's what we do on our podcast, is that we tell people stuff, but we just literally make it all up. So what did I say about baseball?
You need to know based upon what I think you need to know.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I made up a player. I made up a player called Dizzy Legend, because he was the shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, because I play him on MLB The Show 15 on my PlayStation 3. So I just talked about him. Yeah, like he was real. And I think, didn't I say that that he was that I created this character, but then while he was on first base, trying to run to second base, that he kind of turned around and looked at me and sort of winked, and I was I didn't know what to do, because he was my avatar, and yet he kind of come to life or something. So I made up some story about that, didn't I? About taking him out for dinner, and it didn't really work, did it? Because he was a shortstop.
We went off on some kind of weird riff about if your wife would find out you were having an affair with your video game, and it just sort of happened quite naturally.
Yeah.
Did you see that episode of Black Mirror where do you guys watch that show? Have you seen Black Mirror?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
The video games episode where the guy it was like Mortal Kombat, and they put the VR little pods on his head, and then they escaped into the world of Mortal Kombat, and then they were.
That was a brilliant episode. Yeah,
it was really, really strange, but not unlike every other thing they do. So it's right on brand.
It's got really popular in the States now, hasn't it? Because it was a very kind of niche thing in Britain, and then it got onto Netflix, and now it's huge, isn't it? So I like Bandersnatch, the one where you could do your own episode. You could make your way through it.
Man, that ate up too many hours in my day.
Yeah, me too.
I can't get that time back.
I just loved all the memes about it, where people were just inserting random stuff from other shows, and then you had to make an obvious choice. Because I know I was taking advantage of that format for a solid month after it was still funny.
I'd like to do a kind of a Bandersnatch podcast. I'd like to do our podcast, but like Bandersnatch, where people can choose their way through the comedy, and anything that particularly makes them laugh. Yeah. Anything they
Vandercast.
want to do. Yeah. Yeah, Vandercast. That's right. Yeah. No, we should definitely do that. But our podcast is quite strange, isn't it? Already, I mean, we make it a bit like Bandersnatch that we're not 100% certain what we're going to do at any particular time. So
haven't everything like planned out, haven't things figured out, haven't things like that you want to do, or things that like having like a format, all that stuff. It sucks. Who wants it? Overrated.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because what we do is we tend to record on a Sunday afternoon, and I get up in the morning and I kind of message Sam and say what we're going to do today, and he says, "Oh, we'll do, I don't know, sport or wildlife or something." Yeah. And so I'll go up to the spare room and just type some nonsense out, or a list of things that make me laugh. And then I'll record a few little jingles to go with it, like for a quiz or whatever. So we might do a quiz about sport. And then you write something, and then we kind of message each other about half an hour before it starts. And then just kind of, we literally make it up as we go along. So we literally say, what are we doing next? And like, you choose something that we're going to do next, like the Tisdale connection, for example. That's one of our big features, the Tisdale connection.
So there are some things. I mean, at the start we had this fan from Leeds who used to email. I think he gave up on us. He used to email in about his favourite features. So like we were trying to gauge which features to keep and which ones to bin. And we've ended up with a few fan favourites. One of them is the Tisdale connection, where I come up with an interesting way to link the theme of the week to the star Ashley Tisdale of High School Musical fame.
Was she in that? Yeah. Okay, I thought it was the Sweet Life. It's the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody girl, right?
Yeah. Yes, High School Musical. Yeah,
right. I didn't know she was in High School Musical, but sure. Okay, I get it. Tisdale theme. Go ahead.
So whatever we're doing, whether we're doing like money or sport or explorers or drugs or crime or, I don't know, hacking, we find a way of connecting it to Ashley Tisdale. And funnily enough, she is connected to every single subject that we've ever done.
Wow.
We could do meth labs, and she would literally be connected to meth labs, wouldn't she?
We'd find a way.
But literally Ashley Tisdale and meth labs, we would like Google it, and there would be a connection between it. That she once said, in High School Musical, she once tried to set up a meth lab, or I don't know, something like that. Or she once worked in one. Maybe she was like the front of desk.
White actually taught at that high school.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean, we always do the Tisdale connection, don't we? We always do that. But
yeah, who's fact checking these things?
Well, I'm the chief fact checker, and honestly, I think up to date, I've only had to lie about one of them. I think how many episodes are we in? I think we're only at 20 episodes. We pale in comparison to your 201, but yeah, I mean, we got like hacking, and then we found out that she had her Twitter hacked, and this guy used her Twitter to promote his own like e-safety courses and how to like avoid vulnerability, and then she had like her house burgled and stuff. Like, she's been through a lot.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, the traumas and the trials and the traumas and the tribulations of teen stars, like Disney kids, like former Disney kids, the stuff that they go through. But I mean,
they have it tough, don't they?
Good for Miley Cyrus. She just did Rogan, so good for her for that.
Yeah, well, you see, Miley's a particular favourite of mine. Particularly, was it Midnight Sky, her new song? That's a summer banger, isn't it? As we call it.
It really bops.
It really does. Yeah, I mean, it's but Ashley Tisdale, she registered on the radar in the UK, but she's funny enough in that she's like about 15 years old, out of date. So, it's not like somebody new, it's somebody like kind of old. And I just think we find Ashley Tisdale just funny. Just the concept of Ashley Tisdale makes us laugh, really. So
the thing that I connected to, and the thing that I'll connect her to, is just that Sweet Life of Zach and Cody show. And then that connects me to Dylan and Cole Sprouse, who were the little kid on Big Daddy, and they.
Oh right.
The twins from who were Zach and Cody. They played the little boy from Big Daddy. So there's another, just for your future connections. If you're gonna connect stuff, if it goes Adam Sandler routes, do it that way.
Oh man, I adore the Sandler. I really do. It's that thing where it starts off kind of being funny just to mention them in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, because we all know it's a little bit rubbish, but then once you go down the Sandler hole, you realize that there's actually some art behind it, don't you think?
Well, no, obviously, dude. Honestly, seriously, like I grew up like being able to quote every Sandler movie. Like it like informed my like comedic timing, my comedic mind. I just like, okay, that's like pretty low hanging fruit, but I'm the audience for it. I'm the audience for it. So I'll bite the bait here, and you know that's just one ingredient, the Sandler ingredient, but every other piece of comedy that I'm consuming isn't just that. So it's not like, oh, you become like an idiot because you only like idiot humor. No, I like everything. I'm consuming it all. So I become a connoisseur.
He's like a gateway comedian, isn't he? You start on like Little Nicky, and then you move through like the comedic networks, and before you know it, you're hooked on Ricky Gervais.
Yeah. Well,
and it's heroin then after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a gateway. Gateway comedy. Yeah.
Funnily enough, one of my favorite films is Dumb and Dumber.
Yes, me too. It's my number one top favorite comedy movie.
Yeah. And I tried to show it to my daughter, who's 9, a few weeks ago, and she was kind of into it, but she did say she wanted it turned off because I think it was a bit when they spat into his burger in the diner. But she particularly liked it when the blind boy was given the parrot with the head falling off and stuck on. Yeah, Petey. So regularly I drive her to the childminders, and she says, "Polly want a cracker? Polly want a cracker? Pretty bird, pretty bird."
You say pretty bird.
And it's the funniest thing. So that's our new thing, is just saying Polly want a cracker to each other now. So Jim Carrey's brilliant, isn't he? And Will Ferrell, they're all geniuses, aren't they? And Robin Williams, bless his heart, you know, he was as well, wasn't he? So
I found out. Sorry, Simon, I'll let you continue in a moment. I found out the other day that so to link it back to Little Nicky, well, Ozzy Osbourne was in Little Nicky, and when Sharon Osbourne sadly found out that she had cancer in the early 2000s, Ozzy wrote to Robin Williams and got him to come round and talk her into carrying on with treatment when she was feeling really, really down and like was going to give up. And he actually talked her into going back and carrying on. That's amazing, I think. Like all those worlds coming together, like Ozzy Osbourne and Robin Williams, not Robbie Williams, Robin Williams.
What's the connection between Little Nicky and Robin Williams?
I think in Little Nicky, Ozzy Osbourne was at the end. You know where he like.
Where he bites the head off
in Central Park.
Yeah, and he bites the head off the brother. Yeah.
And then Ozzy Osbourne somehow managed to get Robin Williams' phone number and called him up and said, "My wife's really ill. Could you come around and cheer her up? You know, she's really down." And he talked her back into getting treatment.
I love like connections and resources, like stuff that connects little things like that. Like I love like going like, well, I introduced this person to that person, and that person and this person mixed a thing together, and they created a really cool piece of art. And then then those two people met this person who I also knew. So it's like the way things all connect, just like Ashley Tisdale.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you know what I found out the other day? I don't know if you've ever heard of Fish Heads by a band called Barnes and Barnes. There's a really famous song called Fish Heads. It goes fish heads, roly poly fish heads, fish. Yeah, I won't sing the rest of it because it sounds a bit.
Sounds really good.
Sing the whole entire song, please, Simon. It would make me feel real good if you were to sing the song. Fish
heads, roly poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. They don't wear sweaters. They don't play baseball. They're not good dancers. They don't play drums, and it just goes on and on like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You don't
anyway,
have to do the
a
whole
bit,
song.
doesn't it?
yeah,
I
it
was only
does.
doing the bit. You don't have to. You don't have to do the whole
Jesus.
song.
Anyway, so it was made by these guys called Barnes and Barnes, right?
Uh-huh.
And I never knew who Barnes and Barnes were. That's the name of the band. It was like a duo. So I looked them up, and one of them was actually Billy Mummy, who played the boy in Lost in Space back in the 60s. So he was the little boy with the white hair, and then he grew up to sing Fish Heads. So I thought, isn't that amazing? What an amazing thing to have happened in our lifetimes. You know, Bowie, Prince, Barnes and Barnes. No, I mean,
he also.
We're so lucky, aren't we?
He also started a bookstore. I mean, he's part of a really famous duo, Barnes and Noble. I mean, it's a.
Of course, yeah, that's right, yeah, and yeah, no, that's right. I mean, and he was responsible for the bouncing bomb as well. So in the Second World War. So that's Barnes Wallis. So that's incredible too.
And farmers really
so
appreciate them.
So much creativity in one being. It's insane.
Absolutely, yeah. And Lost in Space is awesome as well, isn't it? With that robot too, that funny robot they've got in it. Is it Robbie the robot they have in Lost in Space? I'm just talking bollocks now, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean, I've never saw Lost in Space. I remember the remake that they did with like Matt LeBlanc from Friends.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I remember seeing the trailers for it or like the commercials for it on TV, and me being like, "I'm gonna not see that movie," and I didn't.
It was all right. Gary Oldman was in it, wasn't he? He was the bad guy in it, and
he's good in everything. He's, AKA, he's the bad guy in almost everything.
Yeah,
he is, isn't he?
Except
he was
for
very good in
the Batman movies.
Oh yeah, no. He could definitely be Batman. We've done Batman, haven't we, in the podcast? We did superheroes, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we did do superheroes, and then Vinny called.
Oh Jesus, yeah. So we did.
How can we explain Vinny?
Well, we did this podcast, right? And basically it was all about superheroes. So we had various quizzes and the Tisdale connection, sorry. And then when we finished, somebody called in because we did a live cast on Podbean. And this guy from India called Vinny called in. And we were talking about Avengers, weren't we? We were talking about Thanos and
his big hand.
His big hand, his funny glove with all the diamonds on it and that. And then Vinny started talking to us about superheroes in India, didn't he, or something?
Well, it went like this because he was using Podbean to practice his English, and he said he didn't want to talk to Americans. He wanted to like broaden his like scope and pick up some British phrases. And he was asking us about the phrase "badass," and we said, you know, Thanos is a bit of a badass because he doesn't follow any rules, right? And then something got lost in translation, and we ended up talking about Thanos physically having a bad ass and having to use like hemorrhoid creams. We were trying to keep it on track, but he just got so confused. And then we started saying that with that big glove with the Infinity Stones, it would be quite hard to apply the creams and ointments, and it just turned into a mess, really. The podcast, not his ass.
He has to set it up, and it takes a long time. So he has to have preparation for his preparation H. So it's double preparation H. Yeah. Yes.
I imagine so many things must be difficult for Thanos to do with that big glove, particularly obviously masturbation. I mean that must be hella hard. You know, that's probably why they didn't have it in the films, because they knew he couldn't do it, because they knew he'd be unable to bring himself to, you know.
With those chin grooves that Thanos has, he must have stains all over his shirts. He must have, like when he eats soup, it must go right like a little gutter system.
And that's why we didn't see him eat soup either, because they knew he wouldn't be able to
had to cut that scene.
They did, the soup eating scene.
Oh, plus
just after he's killed Iron Man.
Superman is DC, not Marvel.
That's very clever. That is. And the thing about Iron Man is that I've never seen him iron a shirt before. I don't understand why he's called Iron Man. I literally don't understand it. Either that or I've got it completely wrong. But
he's never been as depressed as you think he is.
No. I just keep remember Robert Downey Jr. taking all those drugs and then ended up sleeping in somebody else's bed by mistake. Every time I see him on a film, I just keep thinking of him doing that. You know, when he was in his drug phase. Do you know what I mean?
When was that? When was that?
I'm not making this up. So he got so into drugs that he basically he took a load of them and then he literally thought he'd gone back to his own house, but he'd actually gone in his neighbour's house and got into bed and thought that he was in his own bedroom. And then they said, "Hello, Robert, you're in the wrong bedroom." And he said, "Oh, I'm on drugs." And they said, "No," and then sent him away. But that was
no excuse.
Went down. Yeah, that's exactly how it went down. But no, but every time I see him, I think you used to do stuff like that, and now you're like a billionaire actor. But
yeah,
Iron Man would never do that, would he? Iron Man would never wake up in somebody's bed having taken a load of drugs.
Well, I think so. I think he might. Like when they throw those like flashbacks when he like it was like what was that Iron Man 2 when he like was New Year's Eve and he was like no selling people because he was like on stuff like he was just like ignoring people and not listening to their ideas. Like he was probably high on some stuff.
Oh, I should think so. Yeah, something. I don't know.
I wonder what superheroes. Pardon me. I wonder what superheroes most likely to do drugs. I think Spider-Man probably least likely. I don't know what it is about him, but he seems like quite straight edge. Whereas the Hulk.
Here's the thing, though. Spider-Man is strung out enough.
Oh.
That's very good. I like that one. I don't know. I think
that's a great question.
That is a great one. Yeah, Batman is dark enough. I think he'd do like dark drugs. I think he'd be into crack cocaine, wouldn't he? Batman.
In the crack cave.
In the crack cave, yeah. They could call him Crack Man, couldn't they? Just a new superhero called Crack Man.
He just jitters.
Where there's a crime, he turns up with a pipe and just smokes it and keels over, and that's his contribution to fighting crime, maybe.
Yeah.
That's his superpower is taking crack.
He's got the money for it. Let's face it. He's got to be the richest one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he might as well go to the most expensive stuff then. I mean, like, spend it if you got them. Pop them if you can afford them. Like,
it'd probably be like pharmaceutical grade drugs from Switzerland. You know, like Keith Richards used to take. So. And Keith Richards is a bit of a superhero as well, isn't he? He could be like
he was Jack Sparrow's dad.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. I can do Jack Sparrow.
Oh, God.
I can do the accent. I mean, I can't do Jack Sparrow, but I can do the accent. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Get off of my ship. There you go. That's it. That's all I've got.
It just sounded slightly like you.
Simon's got this thing where to get into an accent, there's a specific line he has to say, like to introduce him into the accent. Okay, so I mean, like one that we do, the Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he's willing to do it now.
You know, it's crazy. I don't know why, but you got me in a vendetta kind of mood. That's about it, really.
Yeah, that's it. Every episode, we just try and sneak in.
Did you ever see The Rundown?
No, I've not seen it.
The Rundown. It was like he was in it, but it was like The Rock and Sean William Scott, who plays Stifler in the American Pie series. And Christopher Walken's character only says things like, "Whoa, don't make waves." Like,
oh, yours is much better than mine is.
he's like, it's like, you're not coming to another man's house and going to his refrigerator. Like just a bunch of real like Christopher Walken lines. Like, if you want to go for like premium Christopher Walken stupid one-liners, watch The Rundown.
I think he's in Joe Dirt, isn't he?
Yeah.
For a bit.
Yeah.
If you've seen that one, he's pretty good in that. He's like, you do that one more time, I jab you in the eyes with a screwdriver or soldering iron or something. I can't do it as good as Simon.
It's
Right.
like this has become a sort of a Christopher Walken off now, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
we're all senior, we can do the
walk it off.
That's it, yeah.
I'll be walking off stage in a minute.
We do accents, don't we? Because every week on our podcast we do a little like an interview. So sometimes Sam interviews me as a character, and I interview him as a character, and then sometimes we interview each other as characters. So we've been Australian gold prospectors, we've been Russian spies.
Yeah, that one was hard to keep up.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, we've been
Tits as well. The cowboy artist.
Oh, Rusty Tits, yeah. So I created a character called Rusty Tits. So basically, he's an outsider artist. He lives in Black Canyon City, Arizona, and he lives on a ranch. And his thing is like painting like night scenes with moons and ranch hands and cattle and stuff. So that's his thing. But the other thing is that his surname is Tits. So half of the interview was just basically me talking about having a gallery opening somewhere in Arizona, and the other half was just jokes about tits. So that was literally what we did, wasn't it? It was literally that for about 10 minutes. So and that kind of worked.
We lost a few listeners.
We did, didn't we? Yeah, we on Podbean, when you're doing a live cast, you can see the listeners appearing, so the numbers start going up. And as soon as we started Rusty Tits, they started dropping completely. Our juvenile comments, they decided they'd had enough of that. So
that totally. What it reminds me of, like when you're a little kid and you can hit record on the tape deck and then just record like a fake radio show with your friends, like just goofing around, right? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah, it's literally
that's pretty much it. We care very little for our listeners. This is purely for our entertainment only.
It's funny on a slightly, well, not a serious note, but on a slightly different note. The reason that we did this podcast is because obviously with the lockdown, happening in what was it, the 20th of March, wasn't it, in the UK? Yeah. So we went into kind of lockdown, and obviously we're all at home, we've got nothing to do, and so I'd been doing a bit of a podcast with some friends who were poets, because I also write poetry. Serious poetry, but I write poetry, and so I'd been doing a podcast with them, but then of course we couldn't meet up, so we couldn't do that podcast. So then I just put out a thing on Facebook saying, would anybody be interested in doing a podcast? And Sam and I used to teach together at the same school in Hertfordshire, and then we were friends on Facebook, and then Sam just said, yeah, I'd be up for doing it. So we had a bit of a chat on Messenger. And we just came up with an idea. We chose podcast because you could do kind of live casts. Right. And we just talked nonsense for about an hour, didn't we? And it made us both laugh. So we thought we'd do it again.
Like it started out as quite like a concentrated vision. We were going to take items from popular culture that we thought were quite overrated, and then try and bring them back down to earth. So we started off with The Godfather, but Simon watched E.T. by accident instead of The Godfather. So I thought he was talking about The Godfather, but then when I heard him talking about kids on bikes and little aliens, we kind of realised that had been lost, and it became like a farce.
I mean, we tried to do something like we took the Beatles down, didn't we? So we said that. Every episode we took the Beatles down, and we started off.
They deserve it. They've been living on the high horse too long.
Well, that's right, yeah, and we did that joke about they say Ringo Starr, was he the best drummer? He wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. So we did that old joke, but then every episode of our podcast we managed to work that joke in, but in some different form. So it might be like Ashley Tisdale, is she the best actress in the world? She wasn't even the best actress in High School.
The Sweet Life.
In The Sweet Life. Or, yeah. But anyway, so we always try and get it in as a little sort of... But we stopped doing the sacred cow thing quite quickly, didn't we? When we realised it was far too serious and involved, and we just wanted to talk complete nonsense for an hour, that we just decided to do that instead. So our podcast is called The Sacred Cow, but it isn't actually about what we started doing it anymore. We just kept the name because we liked it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said, like, happy distractions, whether it's fun or funny, it's just something that takes you away from like inside of your head, or like your device, your smart device, looking at the news and getting outraged about whatever is trying to outrage you. And
Absolutely.
like through the pandemic, everybody's consumed every bit of content that there is to consume that's out there. So let's start making some more. Just push it out there. Everybody welcome this fun. Everybody welcome this good time. Everybody welcome this distraction.
Well, it's made the two of us laugh. I mean, we laugh endlessly. We find it difficult to keep a straight face through most of what we do. But we like to think that other people will kind of pick up on that and enjoy it. Because we're not kind of very political, are we? We're not very. We do say serious things occasionally, but I mean, we just try to do complete bollocks, really, don't we? We just make stuff up and we just amuse ourselves.
But sometimes we have this thing where I have to say, is it fact or is it bollocks? Because I sometimes have something worthwhile to say, believe it or not, and Simon's not sure whether it's actually true or whether it is just me talking bollocks, because I think I've just got one of those brains for like weird facts. And it was like that. I didn't know what ortolan bunting was until your food episode, Simon.
Oh, the ortolan bunting, yeah.
What?
Have you heard about the Right, so in France they got this bird and it's called the ortolan bunting, right? And it's like it's a little bird. I mean, it's like tiny bird, right? And what they do is they like eating it in France, okay? But there's a particular ritual about eating it. So what they do is they first of all they capture the bird, right? So they set up a trap for it, and then what they do is they gouge its eyes out so it can't see. I know it's going to get a bit grim in a minute. Yes, it is. They gouge its eyes out.
It's not going to get grim. That's grim already.
It's going to get worse in a minute. Yeah. So the thing is because the bird can't see, it then eats all the time because it thinks it's nighttime. So it gets fatter and fatter and fatter. So obviously it makes it better to eat because it's getting fat. And then what they do is they drown it in, right? So they push it under in the cognac, in the brandy, so that it gets full of brandy and stuff, and it dies. And then what they do is they roast it in a little kind of saucepan whole, okay, in an oven, and then they take the little saucepan out and they serve it to you in this little pan, right? And you're supposed to eat the whole thing while it's steaming hot, okay? So remember, they've plucked it, but they haven't taken out the innards or the bones. And so what you do is you all sit around a table and you put cloths over your head, okay? So that when you bite into this thing, all the steam rises up and stays under this cloth. And the other reason you have the cloth is because you're supposed to be shielding yourself from God, because the thing that you're doing is so terrible that it's like you don't want God to see what you're doing. So you've got all these French people sat around a table eating a little tiny roast bird whole. And so I included that fact in my thing about about birds that we did in our podcast. And Sam had to guess whether I'd made that up completely or whether it was true. And of course it was true, because it's a real thing.
It sounds like bullshit. It sounds fake.
I
No,
know.
it's true. I tell you what,
What?
do you remember Anthony Bourdain? Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
brilliant Anthony Bourdain who died
Yeah,
a year or so ago. He on one of his shows, he actually he went to France and he actually did an episode about the Ortolan bunting. He wrote about it as well. And his description of the eating of the Ortolan bunting is just such brilliant writing. So it is true. I haven't made it up. Anthony Bourdain wouldn't make it up. So
Did
But
they
it's
do
true.
something? Did they do something extra to this sheet? Because it's just the sheet. People do sins inside, under a roof. If the sheet is hiding them from God, what?
Yeah.
What's the logic there?
I think it must be like a sensory thing.
Yeah, because you
Like
keep all
the
steam
smells and the steam, and it's good for the skin, I guess.
But
It's like a spa treatment.
Type it in on YouTube and you'll see like French people sitting around a table eating an Ortolan. It is illegal. It's illegal in France, apparently. It's illegal to serve it in a restaurant, and it's illegal, I think, to eat. But you still see people do it out in the countryside where there's like no police or whatever. They still do it, So, but I haven't made it up. It sounds like I've made it up because I make so much up.
I didn't know about them policing it like this. There's like this police force with truncheons if they catch you just munching on this little sparrow thing.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
In France, is marijuana illegal?
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. Although, I think it is still illegal. Yeah, I think you can have it for medicinal reasons, but no, because otherwise everyone in Britain would be going over to France, and they don't. You see, so Canada, it's legal, isn't it?
It's watching like
well legal in Canada, isn't it?
Somebody outside like smoking a joint and being like, "Oh, I got my permit for this." No, we're not here for that. They're killing birds over there. They're eating birds.
That's what gets them high in France, yeah.
All these people with like the towels on, then you take one off and someone's just hotboxing it, just hiding the joint. I swear it's an Ortolan.
It is, yeah. No, they have the bunting squad that come around there with like the truncheons and stuff, and they beat in French. They beat on your door and say, I can't do the accent. Come out, we're the bunting squad. Come out and give us your little.
Just reminded me of like the original Truth or Bollocks that I did with you, Simon. Because I remember you posted a few years ago. You went to France and you posted a picture of a potato on someone's doorstep. Do you remember this?
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And I said to you, this is actually a French ritual because they believe they leave out on this one day a year. They leave out this potato on the doorstep, and that's like an offering to the potato man, or le homme de pomme de terre, as the French call him. So, honestly, and
I do
what
remember
he does
that
is
now, yeah.
He'll if you don't leave out the potato offering, he comes into your bedroom and takes your eyes because you peel the eyes out of the potato like the little shoots.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
Well, it wasn't true. It was complete bollocks, Simon. But you believed it for a moment.
I still believe it. I'm willing to believe it now. It sounds so cool. I'm willing to believe it now.
Do you guys?
I think in our podcast we do operate in this kind of twilight world where we're never entirely sure what we're saying is true or not. I honestly think most of the time, we don't consider whether anything's true or not. We just say it, and then it just becomes true. And then there you go. So
I mean, do you guys watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
I've not seen it, but I've heard it's really good.
Do you know the eye holes?
Oh yeah.
Like, the eye hole. I'm the eye hole man, and
like ants in your eyes, Johnson.
Yeah. So it made me think of that when you were talking about the potato eyes. The guy comes in and takes your eyes.
I mean, I think the whole thing does have like a oddly improvisational feel to it because 90% of it is made up in the half-hour run-up before the episode.
If you
including
don't, if
jingles.
if you don't leave the potato outside, then this guy comes by and takes your measurements. He's the underpotaker.
Oh, God.
That's very clever. I like that one. Yeah, we'll have to use that one, won't we?
We need to recycle some of these jokes.
We do.
He's a machine.
So, comedy. You guys are stand-ups, right?
No. Well, we
No?
can stand up, but we don't do comedy while we're standing up. We're teachers, which is a bit like stand-up comedy.
Okay, yeah.
But
So
yeah,
you got stage time.
I played a stand-up comedian when in one of our podcasts. I was a British stand-up comedian called Nicky Pappalardo. So
Okay.
I invented a stand-up comedian, but I've never actually been one before. I don't think I could be on stage on my own and do that kind of adversarial thing, you know, like the kind of, you say you want to get a laugh in like the first 15 seconds. And if you don't, there's going to be people kind of like, you know, shaking their heads and going, oh, this guy's not funny. And then it becomes adversarial and then there's heckles. And it's like, I don't think I could do that. So, you know, I don't know about you, Sam, but that's not.
You know, I find people laugh at me when I'm not doing jokes. And I don't know whether that's because, you know, because I'm funny or just because I'm a bit different. You know, I think in a different way to them. But I used to go to a stand-up comedy night when I was at university, and we eventually just got kicked out because, you know, it was just like really, really dreadful wannabe like comedians. I mean, I remember one time there was this guy, we used to just have more fun heckling these poor people. It was dreadful, and they came on with a bongo drum, and they go, "I love Sean Bean. I love Sean Bean. He was in this scene," and then they just described scenes that Sean Bean had been in, and they just repeated that for their full 10-minute set, just describing things that Sean Bean had been in, and we were like, what is even going on? So we heckled them and we got kicked out. And that's as close as I've been to stand-up comedy, getting kicked out.
Well, I cannot advocate heckling at all.
No.
It's dreadful. I feel bad.
Like, dude, honestly, some people who are doing comedy at an open mic night, that's all they got. That's all they got. They don't have anything else. And like that, they're like, all right, I'm going to do this. And it's going to be like my artistic expression. I love it. And then you go like, hey, you suck. And I'm like, that's all I have. You're saying all I have sucks? Oh, man. Like,
tell me to my face that Sean Bean sucks.
The best heckle I ever heard was I saw a gig with Scott Capurro doing stand-up, and he told one of my favourite jokes, which was, you think Jesus died on the cross for our sins? No, he was just some guy who forgot the safe word. So anyway, so he's doing a lot of material like that, and then all of a sudden he started doing material about Anne Frank. And then things got a bit darker. You know, he was kind of like saying, well, they must have known she was up there because of all of the typing. They must have been able to hear it all. And then it got darker and darker and darker. And Scott Capurro he's a gay comedian, and he was kind of doing a lot of stuff about kind of about sexuality and about the Holocaust and stuff. And somebody stood up and heckled him, and they said, what you're doing, Scott, is you're using one identity in order to make fun of another identity. So you're just hiding behind that in order to make fun of somebody. And that, I thought that was the greatest heckle, because it wasn't like you're rubbish, get off. It was literally, what you're doing is fundamentally wrong. You should stop. And he literally just stopped in his tracks, because he obviously would have thought about it and gone, yeah, I am doing that. And it took him about 10 minutes to get the audience back again. And it was brutal. But I've never seen a put down like that before, that was so kind of literate and so on the money. And I think he's a very funny guy, but like you say, he'd taken his humor to a very dark place. And I think that, you know, it was hard to watch, you know, to watch somebody up there doing stand up, but kind of fumbling around and not being able to kind of deal with it. But he's still a very funny guy, though, Scott Caporo. So, like I say, my favourite joke.
So, kind of switching gears on all that.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been to the States? Have you ever been to the U.S.?
Yeah, I have. Sam, have you been? So you went funny there. You shape-shifted from one side to another.
My internet's playing up, sadly.
Oh, is it?
I think. Yeah, I might have to switch to audio only, guys. Oh no, I'm back. Am I back?
No,
Yeah,
you are back.
You're there. Yeah.
You're just on one side. We can only see half your face now. So, but
I've never been to the States.
I've been a couple of times. No, 3 times. I've been to the States 3 times. So, I've been to New England a couple of times, to Boston and Cape Cod and around there, and I've been to New Mexico. So yeah, I love the States. And
well,
my wife.
That's a question I've always had. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Simon. But a question I've always had is: do people from England go to New England and be like, "This is nothing like England. What do you do?"
Well, no. It's the funny thing is that it's a lot.
A bad joke. It was a bad joke.
But it's a lot like England. That's the thing about New England is it does look a lot because it does, but it's new. Right. It's kind of England, but it's new. It's like, hey, this is new. But yeah, it does seem very English because it's like little cottages and little villages and the Boston Red Sox as well. So it is very much like England. So, but New Mexico is very much not like.
Is there a Boston Red Sox in England too?
No, there's not. No, there should be, but there isn't. No.
Is New Mexico just like a newer version of Mexico, Simon?
Yeah, it's improved Mexico. Now,
yeah, they've done up the houses, they've done up all the cantinas and stuff, and they've it's kind of new and improved. But the mariachi bands are better trained, and the food is better. They do like Tex-Mex there in New Mexico.
New look, same great
and
flavor.
Obviously absolutely, yeah, and they had all those nuclear explosions there as well, so that kind of cleaned the place up a bit too. But yeah, it's but yeah, yeah, no, I hung out in Santa Fe for a bit. I really like Santa Fe and Albuquerque because that's got a great comedy name. And I stopped.
Bugs Bunny, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Bugs Bunny name dropped Albuquerque all the time.
And of course, that song, Albuquerque. You know that one, Simon?
I do know that one, yeah, Albuquerque. Albuquerque.
I don't know whether that...
Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. Do you know that was actually written by the little kid that was in Lost in Space?
What, Billy Mooney?
Yeah, that's him.
Barnes and Noble and Barnes.
Yeah, from Barnsley.
They do prank phone calls. The Albuquerque boys do the prank phone calls.
Yes. I went and stopped in a gas station in Albuquerque, and they because coming from Britain, you don't get this. But the first thing was they had like a Denny's attached to it, I think it was, and there was an entire aisle of jerky. There was a jerky aisle, which I thought was amazing because in Britain, you go in the supermarket and there's a few different bags of jerky because we have jerky in this country too. But they had an entire aisle, just all the different jerkies you could possibly have, which I thought was amazing because that was too much jerky for me. I think it was just.
What place was that?
That was in Albuquerque.
They have Albuquerque jerky.
Yeah, that's it. From Albuquerque. And they also, and this is another thing that we don't have in Britain because we don't have the Constitution, was that they had a lot of the Second Amendment merchandise. So T-shirts with if you come for my guns, better bring yours, and all that kind of thing. All that sort of Second Amendment sort of stuff. Because in our country, we don't really have guns, do we? In our country,
well,
we have knives. Lots of knives.
Yeah. But... Knives are really popular amongst the kids here. It's the new fidget spinner.
that knife fad, it'll wear off.
Yeah, like in Pokemon cards.
You know, when you're teaching, they're always getting out there like their machetes and their like
Switchblades.
knives, yeah,
And
like
there's
doing
that
the
one
thing.
show off with the butterfly knife.
Oh
That's it.
man.
Yeah, they're always doing that, aren't they? But yeah, guns. I mean, literally, I don't know about you, Sam, but I wouldn't know where to buy a gun, how to buy a gun. I've seen guns before, but never actually guns that work. I've seen them hung up in pubs before.
See,
I don't
my
even know anyone that owns a gun. I mean, that's the UK. Is that literally there's so little gun culture that we have to draw
to get
pictures. Yeah.
To get a gun license in the UK, you have to have a police officer come round your house and inspect your gun safes to make sure that they're fitted against two walls. You need a certain amount of locks on your doors. I know this because my brother recently got his gun license. Well, I say recently, like 6 months ago, a year ago. So the only person I know is my brother who has guns, and he's really into it. And you have to go to like a specific range to shoot them, and the range has to have a license for like. He's not allowed to fire certain calibers at this range because they don't have permission from like the local gun people.
Does he have an AR-15? Has he got a semi-automatic?
I couldn't tell you, but I mean, it's this ridiculous that for his license to like have a pistol, he has to have like a rod attached to the handle so that the gun itself is longer than 16 inches. So he's got this pistol, but it's just got this massive stick coming out the back of it so that he can legally own it because the butt has to be so long.
So he can't hide it in his pants.
No, he's got a case that's about 5 times as long as the weapon. You can't conceal it.
So every time he goes to the gun range, they have to check out his butt to see whether or not it's suitable.
Yeah, to check that his is long enough.
Oh man. old fellow long butt over there has to. long butt.
That is hilarious, isn't it? I always thought that in order to own a gun in the UK, you had to have a Cockney accent. I thought that was the only requirement, was that you sounded a little bit Cockney. But that's obviously not true, is it?
Like Pikeys?
Yes, that's Snatch, isn't it? Brad Pitt and the Guy Ritchie film. That's it that he did. Snatch. Guy Ritchie,
yeah.
Of course, Snatch is a very rude word in the United Kingdom. So
is it?
Yeah, it might even be rude in the States as well. But
Well, I mean, it's a vagina, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's Snatch. Yeah.
It's a vagina, everyone. call it a snatch sometimes.
It's a shame Guy Ritchie didn't call his film just Vagina, because it would have got a completely different demographic in, wouldn't it?
Pitt, starring in coming this fall, Brad Pitt in Vagina.
I think it only got the name from the fact that the dog snatched the diamond, and then the guy said, "Hey, don't snatch." But like,
I watched it. I was massively disappointed, but then I guess it probably wasn't. It had a different meaning, didn't it, with snatch? But there wasn't a lot of snatch in it, if I remember rightly. So
no.
So, it was a total sausage fest. So, what as like outsiders of America looking into it, what is like your like the instincts, the first thoughts that you have about America?
Oh my God, Sam, do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I guess like I mean I know that like Google tends to like give you what you want to hear nowadays. Right, so like their algorithms, or like Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg's there thinking like, right, this person really left wing, so we're gonna like give them a load of stuff that's like anti-Trump. So I tend to see like the worst of it, like all the Trump bashing stuff. So that's like all I see, and I just assume lots of other people are like quite anti, I guess. But that's in my little online echo chamber on social media.
Do you think like, wow, the people in America seem like they are kind of maybe a little dumb if they have this guy as their president? Like, is that a thought that goes through your head?
No, not at all. I mean, only a certain number of people voted for Trump, and people might have voted for Trump because they voted Republican all their lives. They might have voted for Trump because they work in a job where they want to be protected, and they think that Trump was talking some truth about wanting to look after the little person. So I mean, I don't think every person that voted for Trump is necessarily an idiot. Just as everyone that voted, for Hillary Clinton isn't, like left wing or woke or whatever.
Right.
But I do think that, our impression in Britain is that that the States is now divided into very woke, sort of like middle class liberals, and then gun toting sort of like fascist, kind of like militiamen, and that seems to be the impression that we've got. But that can't be the case. That can't be the case because
Right.
it's was it 300 million people? I mean,
Yeah, it can't be can't be so dualistic, so black and white.
No,
Right.
No, it can't.
Exactly.
I mean, an
It's
interesting
caricatures,
thing,
isn't it? That
Yeah.
we see. We just see like lots and lots of caricatures of people
Yeah.
because I mean we can only digest America through online clips on Twitter or what's on our
Yeah.
news. So at the moment, it would seem that the entirety of the United States is in riot,
but it's not, is
judged
it?
by
It
our
can't.
news. Well, I assume not.
You're only seeing what you're being showed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
What we need is a
interesting
man
'cause
in amongst it.
Well, we do, yeah. We need a Biden, don't we? We need a 77-year-old man to come along and save everything, don't we? Because he doesn't look like he's going to make it all the way through the campaign, does he? He looks like he might flake out at any point. But even that's got to be better than Trump, isn't it? Even a man close to death is probably a better bet than Trump. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I mean, what's interesting is that I'm on an MLB Facebook group, like the MLB feed for baseball,
Yeah.
and they a few weeks ago they were posting a lot of Black Lives Matter sort of like imagery and like people taking the knee and so on. And then immediately underneath it, there'd be loads of comments saying, "Well, I'm never going to watch baseball again," and that's the last time I ever watched this player, or "Oh yeah, so I suppose all lives don't matter," and so you get all these comments. But then if you look at the likes and the loves and the cares, and then the the laughter and the anger, if you click on those, out of about 8,000 sort of like comments, about 6,500 of people saying, yeah, really like Black Lives Matter, really, love that, whatever. And there's very few where people actually go, no, I'm really angry that I've seen that. So in terms of like Black Lives Matter, it does look like the very vocal people, the ones that comment, their voices seem to be rising above other people and given a distorted view of what people seem to, based on that kind of straw poll, what they actually think about the Black Lives Matter movement in America. I mean, we again, like Sam said, we see people that agree with it and people that don't agree with it, and that seems to be equal according to our news. But it would appear that I think most people are just, we understand what Black Lives Matter means, and we get it, and we support it. I don't think there's that many people that are so vociferously opposed to it that
Well,
that it.
I mean, we don't see.
carry on.
I mean,
Yeah,
from my perspective, we don't see that kind of like police brutality
Right.
in the UK. We don't see racism like that over there. We don't see
no,
the kind of stuff that we're seeing on our news. So I was wondering, like, from your perspective and
Yeah.
seeing what that world is like,
yeah.
must you be like, wow, they really need to get their shit together.
Well, no. I mean, I think it's pretty clear from what we can see that every time there is a new incident involving cops and black people in the States, that we then get that news story in Britain, so we get the impression that it's happening all the time. But I think the thing is that, you know, intelligent people will go, well, it's obviously not happening all the time, but it's happening too often. And that's why there's a Black Lives Matter movement, that it's just happening too often to be just a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in the UK as well. I mean, there are incidents in the UK, and you know, black people in the UK are far more likely to be stopped and searched than white people are. In fact, there was a black politician recently who was stopped in a car just because it was an expensive car and it was registered in a different county, in a different part of the UK. So they just assumed that this was somebody selling drugs. And this is a British politician who was stopped just because they were black. So, I mean, it happens in this country too. But I think there's a similar thing in this country, is that you get a lot of people saying, yeah, we totally agree with it, and we think, you know, Black Lives Matter. And then you get another group of people saying, oh, well, it's ridiculous. You know, I suppose white lives don't matter now. And, you know, what about us? And it's ridiculous, because that's obviously not what Black Lives Matter means. It doesn't mean that all lives don't matter.
We I don't really want to go into like media bias and all that stuff, but there's this definite like undercurrent in the UK of them trying to dilute the real meaning of it. Like here, I mean, we were told that Black Lives Matter is about removing old TV shows because of stereotypes, and removing phrases because of, you know, their etymology, where those phrases came from, and it was to do with like colonial England. And you know, people are getting so caught up on these tiny little details. Like, I mean, this episode of Only Fools and Horses had a stereotype. We must take it off of Netflix. And it's like, that's important, but it's not at the core of it. I mean, you know, people are dying, but in England, I guess it kind of just filters through.
It's like the minimum that you can do is not essential to the actual movement. It's just like, that's a different kind of doing something than actually doing something that would affect change in a good way.
We've done that thing, haven't we, where we've gone from like our bizarre world of potato people to something quite serious, and we do that in our podcast quite often. And like, I'm sure whoever's listening to it just thinks like, wow, what is even going on?
I mean, in answer to your question, we love America. We think it's brilliant. In fact, we had an entire episode, an entire episode devoted to America, didn't we?
I mean, we did, but we did. Yeah. We did an American special, where we were talking about how great Costco is, because we've only recently gotten Costco, and it's changed our lives, man. I mean, Simon's just getting pallets of sparkling water.
Oh God.
What else?
Where else can you buy
like of ladders?
Like a £5 bag of Cheetos. I mean, it is just literally the best thing ever, isn't it? But I mean, we love the Costco. We love we don't have Walmart, but we have got Asda, which is like Walmart. So, but we can't buy AR-15s in Asda yet, can we? You can't get anything like that in Asda. You can't get any big guns, can you?
You can't. I don't think you can get them at Walmart. I mean, I don't know for sure. I've never looked, but I'm pretty sure you can't. But
right. Oh well, maybe that's fake news, and maybe that's because we've in the UK we've had like shots of people going in and buying like, you know, semi-automatic weapons in Walmart. You know.
Well, you can get. I think you can get like shotguns and stuff. I don't know if you can get like AR-15s, and I think that's more of like an internet purchase, maybe.
Is that like Home Depot? Is that more like Home Depot? Is it? Or sorry,
Home Depot. Home Depot. I don't think Home Depot sells AR-15s either.
Do they not? Oh right, they used to.
You can make your own. You can make your own though.
You gotta manufacture it. To buy all the parts. Put it on.
Get a 3D printer and make your own AR-15. But I mean, I imagine walking into a Walmart and being able to buy something that I could kill somebody with, you know, even if it's just a very high cholesterol snack. But you know, I'm sure. I'm sure that there's loads of things you can kill people with in Walmart.
I mean,
so,
if you're creative
yeah.
enough, Simon, you could do that up the Asda. I mean, they do like those yellow sticker meals that are like 3 days out of date for like 15p. And I don't know, I'm going to say I've got an ill off of those, and I think someone of more like a frail disposition, could maybe pass away as a result. So,
well, here's the thing: you got to build up an immunity to those cheap ass yellow sticker meals. You got to eat them all the time. That way, you won't get sick from them.
I got to build up a tolerance to the out of date.
You know what you can do? You can buy in Asda. You can buy microwaves. So what you can do is you can use that as a weapon, can't you? As long as you can persuade somebody to put their head in it for long enough and then cook them.
Well,
so yeah,
you got to be able to close it though.
I heard this story. I don't know if it's true.
So yeah, I don't know.
Could be true, could be bollocks. I think it might be my Strange But True book. But in New York, in the 80s, like tail end of the punk scene, microwaves had just come in. And this punk couple, they like buy this microwave, and they've got like no oven. They just think, let's save up and get this brand new piece of technology, this microwave. So they're punks, and what they do is to save money after they've bought this microwave, because it's wiped out their bank accounts, to like stick up their hair. They would glue their hair up rather than buying like hair gel for the big mohawks or whatever. And to dry it, they would put it in the oven to speed up the process. So what this punk couple did was they put a screwdriver in the mechanism of the microwave door, turned it on to try and dry these like punk haircuts, and boiled their brains.
Huh.
And
that sounds
could be absolutely true.
It sounds like a whole lot of bullshit to me. I mean, but it sounds made up. But I mean, people go to extremes for their looks.
So were they? Are you sure they were new wave? Do you think, or microwave?
Nuke wave.
You see what I did there? You see? Plastic, isn't it?
There's
we love them.
There is this story recently around here, like right around here. I live in Philadelphia, like the birthplace of America.
And M. Night Shyamalan as well.
Yes,
He films a lot of his films in Philadelphia, doesn't he?
Yeah. But there's a news story where I don't know how true this is. This could be made up. There's a guy who just got busted who was using a 3D printer and printing out guns and distributing them to all of his friends. Yeah. When he got caught, the officer who arrested him said, "Don't bother lying. Don't try to make up an excuse. We found your prints everywhere."
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. I shall have to remember that.
It's like that. It's like the one that happened near us, Simon, where those policemen were trying to find that guy that stole all the toilets, but they had nothing to go on.
Oh yeah. And it was a little bit like that. Do you remember that guy who they found covered in like pepperoni and like cheese and like pineapple chunks? Right. They think he topped himself. Yeah, there's that one as well.
Oh man, that guy's really going to give you a piece of his mind.
That's very good.
We've just actually got vegan pizzas at Domino's, and I tried one last week. Do you guys have a vegan Domino's in the US? I'm turning the questions back on you.
I mean, I have a Domino's down the street from my house, but I don't know if it's got vegan stuff.
So they brought out this vegan pizza, and it was pretty good. You know, the fake cheese was edible, which is all you can really ask for. But what really worried me was I forgot to put it in the fridge. I left it out overnight, and by the morning, it was covered in mold already. So I'm like, either that's really fresh, there's no preservatives, or like I need to build up my yellow sticker immunity.
Wow, that's quick mold, isn't it?
It's very quick mold, but it may be to do with my dilapidated house.
Is it like dripping water down the walls, and is it like really hot and fetid and like malarial?
Yeah, there's like mosquitoes and like it's like Florida. like really, really damp air.
I went to Florida once. I drove through Florida on the way to New Orleans through a place called Defuniak Springs. I just like that. I think that could be the name of a detective writer, Defuniak Springs.
Sounds made up. I've never heard of it. Sounds made up. You're making that up, Simon?
No, it's true. Defuniak Springs. Me and my wife stopped there on the way down to New Orleans, and it was it was rubbish there. They had a Chinese restaurant, and that was about it. But I just like the name Defuniak Springs. Hi, I'm Defuniak Springs, and this is my world of mystery. Come with me now, and I'll smack you over the back
Chinese
with a brick.
Chinese
I'll
restaurant.
show you my Chinese restaurant. Yeah. Will your fortune be there? Who knows? That kind of thing, you know. Yeah, that's a new thing we could do now, isn't it?
So, something I always do on the show. I'm just gonna two more quick things, and then hot dog and a handshake. I'll send you guys home. You guys do whatever you want to do. But the times. You're getting called. You're getting summoned.
My cat's just arrived. So.
Yeah, your cat is summoning you.
Shush! I'm on a podcast. All right, go on.
Real like first world problem. You know, my cat's so inconsiderate of my podcast recording.
I know. She just never learns, do you? Anyway, sorry.
Hot dogs and handshakes.
Hot dogs and a handshake. That's an independent wrestling payday.
All right.
That's the old joke. It's not a real payday for pro wrestling, but it's close to it.
Right.
So
I like hot dogs.
In the 2020, the time stamp that we're in right now, and basically like one of the main reasons I started the show was to kind of like have some stuff on the record. Stuff on the record where it's like, you know, like before I ever started doing the show, my mom had this CD that she had made that was it was like voicemails from her mom and from her best friend who had passed. And she said, you know how like when people pass, you forget what their voices sound like.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want you to only have a thing that goes, hello. Oh, all right. Well, I guess call me back. No, I want you to like see who I am the whole time. Like,
yeah,
it'll take you a long time to go through all the records of the stuff I've said. But that being said, this stuff is outliving us. This is a timestamp. This is a time capsule in 2020, coronavirus times, pandemic, whatever other words you can use to describe the dumpster fire that is 2020.
Yes.
So, I'll let you guys take turns. Kind of like, let's say 20 some years from now, 20, 30 years from now, who knows where you are in life, if you're here or not still here on this plane of existence. But one of your kids, one of your students, somebody who cares about you, has discovered this audio to find out what it was like for you to get through this, and on top of that, some life lessons that you've learned that have helped you become a better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today.
Do you want to go first, Sam?
Oh, I think it's a tall order, but yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I've managed to survive purely on.
One sec. So we're in this moment when you're speaking directly to the future. So you're not speaking. You're speaking directly to the future in these next words. Okay. So this is audio time travel. You're speaking directly to the people listening in the future, like 30 years from now.
So you have to say, hello, future.
Yeah.
I'm Sam.
Hi, future. I'm Sam. I managed to survive the coronavirus times by eating copious amounts of takeaway food because my oven wasn't working. and it was easier for other people to cook for us. We also managed to keep ourselves sane, but for some reason we made loads and loads of quizzes up and did online chats with our friends and just made up quizzes for each other for no reason at all, but everyone was doing it, and it seemed like the normal thing at that time to stay connected in a very disconnected world. I think I improved myself by going for a daily walk and taking in some nature. I think that just really, really helped with my mental health, and the government kindly allowed us 1 hour a day to go for a walk, no more, no less. Thank you.
That was very good. Right, it's
Your
me
turn,
now,
Simon.
isn't it? Hello, future. I'm Simon, and I'm here to tell you all about the coronavirus, which was very popular in 2020, and we had quite a lot of it because we liked it so much. Yeah, and so nowadays, of course, you don't have the coronavirus because, of course, you drive around in like atomic-powered cars, and you know, all of human existence, you know, people can live till like 1,000 now. But of course, back in our day, you got about 80 or 90 years, and then you had to go in the ground. You weren't reborn into a computer or anything, so that's pretty sad. But yeah, I think what you need to know is that we started the mask wearing thing. So you know now in the future you have the whole face mask and the whole body mask so that you don't get anything. Well, back in our day, we just covered our mouths up. You know, we didn't do anything else. So obviously the virus got in through our ears and our eyes and our other orifices. But you guys, you don't have to worry about that because you have the full body condom. So yeah, so that's that. And microwave lentils, they're really great. They're a big thing, I know, in the future. But you know, obviously we have them now, and we invented them this year basically because they were so easy to eat. And what we learned, and what I'm passing on to you is that you should just do what you want and do as much of it as you like, as often as you want, because that's really what life is about. It's just doing what you want and getting paid for it, as if you can, but if not, but definitely do really silly things and say stupid things and make stuff up and do funny voices and just make yourself laugh and make your friends laugh, because that's really all there is to do in life, you know, to just carry on doing that, wear the full body condom, eat the lentils, and watch out with that atomic powered car that Tesla made, and that's like $300,000.
And make sure you eat with a sheet over your head so God doesn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, don't go munching on too many of those Ortolan buntings because you know that they're quite fattening, aren't they? And yeah, that's about it.
And
yeah.
cognac.
So only one a day, only one Ortolan bunting a day. So remember that.
And you got to go kill it yourself. You go track it down. You go bunting hunting out there.
I've definitely got to get my Post-its out and write some of these down because they're comedy gold. They are.
Yeah. Honestly, I just want to make sure I say on the record how grateful I am with the amount of like cool times we got to have in just this, you know, like hour and some, and the fact that you guys were like real chill with like scheduling it and not really having a format or anything, because like I think a lot of people who like post on these like groups that are like, hey, looking for guests, they're like, oh, I want an exact breakdown of every single thing we're going to talk about. Calm down. Don't sweat it so much. Yeah. So the fact that you guys are so flexible is cool to me. I appreciate. I think I've said this a million times on the podcast. The currency that is your attention and your effort is so valuable. Like dollars, pounds, whatever currency, none of that means as much as the currency of your effort and your attention. So the fact that you've spent some of that currency on me and the people who are listening or watching have spent some of that attention, and if you stuck with us through our riffs and our BS, cool. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I want to make sure I say to you guys, like, if I can be a resource to you in any way, right? Like if you're, going through something and you want to talk about it with somebody who's not going to judge you, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here. I'm glad this is, like I said, we're new friends. This is still just the beginning, and I look forward to it growing and growing. And it's, still just the beginning. At this point, this is how I wrap it up. This is how I wrap up. This is how we wrap the show up.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, I've gifted you this show, even though I know you guys already have your own podcast. I get it. Which, I'm happy to be a guest on your podcast too. If you have.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm gifting you this podcast. Now, the podcast, hypothetically, evolving with Sam and Simon and Sam. However, you guys got to work that part out yourself. I'm not in charge of the billing.
but Sam goes first because it's alphabetical.
If you could just call us Salmon, that would make it easier.
Salmon.
Oh God, that sounds like Brangela, isn't it? Brangela, or what was it? Brad Pitt and
Brangelina.
Brangela.
That's like ulcer cream.
but I don't necessarily like. I don't really like that name because it just sounds fishy.
Right. Oh my God.
So are you guys familiar with Jerry Springer?
Yes. Yeah. We know his work. Yeah. We're familiar with it. Yeah.
So what I do is I'll ask you to, in like a very Jerry Springer's final thought sort of way, wrap up the episode and what it's meant to you, and like lessons to take from it, and anything you want to like put over or like talk about. So like there isn't a stone unturned for your episode of the show.
I'll start the other one, Simon. You do this one.
Okay. Well, I think we've learned a lot today about ourselves and about each other. And I feel that we've touched on a lot of subjects, some of them serious, some of them not so serious. But I do think that we've come away as more complete people. I certainly feel more whole now. And that sounds really rude, doesn't it? I certainly feel more whole.
It sounds a bit sarcastic. It's disingenuous.
Perfect, doesn't it? Yeah, no, I do feel more whole. I feel like a more complete person. But yeah, no, it's been so much fun. No, seriously, it's been so much fun, and it's just been such a brilliant way to spend like an hour and a half of just talking about serious stuff and not serious stuff, and just making each other laugh. I think it's been brilliant. So I think that's my takeaway from this episode, is how much fun it is to talk to people, and and particularly to talk to somebody like 5,000-6,000 miles away in a different culture, and but that's so familiar to us as well. So I mean, it's just been brilliant. Is that about it? Is that Springer like enough? Yeah.
Maybe you can say something like, "Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes." No, get it.
Remember, be good to your moms and dads, and make sure that you always get rid of your gum in an appropriate place.
Is that how you wrap up class at the end of the school day?
No, I just say, be lucky, like that. I just do that.
Oh, man, that's a good one. You should end every episode that way. Every episode of your hypothetical podcast.
We will do
Evolving with Salmon.
See, all I do is I just say, right, chairs up, guys. That's it. Off you go. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Well, every lesson you tell them to put their chairs up.
No, not every lesson. Just at
well,
the
I was going to say, because then the next class will then have to come in and take them down.
Well, that's 5 minutes less planning that I have to do. The chair time it just takes up the hour. Can I add my final thought?
Yes, please.
It's been a pleasure to meet new people on this podcast, and it's also been nice to see some more from Simon. I mean, he sounds sarcastic sometimes when he's being heartfelt, and it was just nice to like hear that raw emotion in his final gambit, and just the smile on his face.
It's raw. I'm very raw at the minute. So yeah. Right there.
That's awesome.
Chairs up, guys. That's it.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your guys' time. Thanks so much. Be safe. Have fun. Keep evolving.
We will. Cheers. It's been an absolute